I was scrolling through Facebook, killing time during my lunch break, when I saw the photo, a beautiful, high-resolution family portrait taken in front of my grandmother's old white porch, the porch where I grew up. Everyone was there, my parents, my brother and his wife, Aunt Carol, even my cousins who live in Colorado. The comments were flooded with beautiful family, such a legacy, this belongs on a Christmas card. I stared at it for a long time. The colors were perfect, their smiles rehearsed, their clothes coordinated in soft beige and navy tones. But one thing was missing, me. I was standing in that exact spot the day the photo was taken. I remember Grandma fussing with my hair, the photographer lining us up, the heat of the sun on my back, but in the final version posted online I wasn't there, not cropped out subtly, not faded, just gone. Like I had never existed in their world at all. My name is Madeline Rose, I'm 27 years old, and that moment shattered something inside me I never knew could break. If you've ever been betrayed by the people you thought would always love you, subscribe and share your story in the comments. You're not alone. It wasn't a mistake. I thought maybe I'd been accidentally missed in the upload, but then I looked again, the way my mom's arm was around my brother now, when it had been around me in real time. The gap in the lineup had been digitally closed. They didn't forget me, they erased me. Like I was a bruise on their perfect skin. At first, I thought I was going crazy. I even pulled up my phone's camera roll to make sure I hadn't imagined being there. There I was in the exact same dress, standing beside my sister-in-law, holding Grandma's hand. But none of those made it to Facebook. None of those were good enough for public display. The one they chose, the one they edited, was surgically precise. I wasn't estranged from my family. I hadn't done anything wrong. Sure, I'd moved out of state a year earlier to chase my career in film editing, ironically, but I still FaceTimed Grandma every Sunday. I still sent gifts, still RSVP'd to family events. I just wasn't the version of me they wanted anymore. I'd chosen a different life, a path that didn't revolve around church bake sales and backyard BBQ. And for that, I was quietly disowned. I didn't cry right away. I didn't call anyone or post a vague status update. I sat at my desk in my tiny but proud one-bedroom apartment in Seattle and stared at the screen like it was trying to warn me. I wasn't just removed from a photo. I was removed from the narrative, from their legacy, and they'd done it smiling. That night, I called my mother. She picked up on the second ring, her voice chipper like she was expecting good news. "Maddie, finally, we were just talking about you the other day. Why'd you take me out of the photo?" I asked, silence, then a light chuckle, like I'd just told a mildly offensive joke. "Oh, honey, don't be dramatic. I was there, Mom." "Well, it wasn't a good angle of you. You were standing weird and your dress didn't match the color scheme. And you know how Aunt Carol is about everything looking classic. We didn't think you'd even care. You edited me out of a family photo like I didn't exist, and you posted it. You let strangers compliment a lie." She sighed, that long breath she always used when I was being difficult. "Maddie, it's just a picture. Don't make this about you." But it was about me. It always had been. This wasn't just one picture. This was the culmination of years of quiet disapproval of me going to art school instead of law school, of me dating women and not hiding it, of me speaking up when I was supposed to smile. I'd given them 1,000 chances to see me, and in the one image that was supposed to represent our entire family legacy, they finally showed me how they really felt. The next day, I blocked them all. Every cousin, every aunt, every backhanded Facebook friend. I unfollowed, unsubscribed, unhooked myself from the web of their curated reality. I didn't make a dramatic exit. I didn't send a long message. I just vanished the way they wished I'd been from the beginning, but I wasn't broken, not this time. For the first time in my life, their rejection didn't crush me, it clarified me. I didn't need their validation. I didn't need their fake smiles or their perfectly cropped memories. What I needed was space and a plan, because while they were editing me out of a photograph, I was editing a version of myself they would never recognize until it was far too late. I didn't want to see them again, not after the phone call, not after being erased like a stain. But Grandma's birthday was coming up, her first since she passed, and despite everything, I owed it to her to be there for the candle lighting. I told myself I was going just for her, not for the people who had made a digital fantasy out of a family portrait, not for the mother who called me dramatic, or the brother who hadn't even checked in since the post went live. I was going to stand by the woman who always saw me, but part of me, a stupid, soft, leftover part, hoped they'd say something, anything, maybe even an apology. When I pulled up to the old house, the front lawn was crowded. Cousins, neighbors, plastic folding chairs, a table lined with white sheet cake and pink lemonade, balloons that read forever in our hearts, Grandma's ashes in a tiny box at the edge of the porch, framed by hydrangeas. I walked up the steps and no one turned around. I smiled at Aunt Carol, who looked straight through me. My cousin Jen was pouring lemonade. She gave me a quick wave like I was just a friend from work, not someone she used to braid hair with every summer. It was like I was haunting my own family. I found Mom near the cake, chatting with two of her church friends. She was wearing Grandma's old pearl brooch, the one she said had no value, when I asked about it last Christmas. I tapped her shoulder. She turned, clearly surprised to see me. "Oh, Maddie," she said, blinking. "You came. I told you I would." I said, "Right." She tucked a loose curl behind her ear, that fake smile already forming. "Well, go say hi to everyone. We're just about to start the memory circle." She turned back like I was an interruption, not her daughter. That was the moment I stopped waiting for closure. I realized these people didn't want me back. They wanted me silent. When the memory circle began, each family member stood in turn and shared a story about Grandma. Laughter echoed off the porch walls, childhood tales, her famous Sunday pancakes, the time she chased a raccoon off the roof in her nightgown. I stood quietly in the back, hands folded, and then came the moment that ripped open everything. My brother stepped forward. He was wearing a crisp blue shirt, holding his wife's hand. "I just want to say." He began, looking around. Grandma was all about family. She believed in showing up, in being present, in putting others before yourself. He glanced in my direction, even when it was inconvenient. People nodded. Aunt Carol smiled proudly. My mother dabbed a tissue to her eye. I felt my stomach twist, and I know she would be proud. He added, "To see how close we've stayed, how we've honored her memory, all of us, all of us." I didn't realize I was shaking until I felt my phone trembling in my palm. I raised my hand. "Can I say something?" All eyes turned to me. A pause, attention, sharp and clear. Mom gave a tight, lipped smile. "Of course, dear, make it quick." I stepped forward, heart thudding in my chest. I looked at the faces in front of me, every one of them so rehearsed, so certain in their unity. I loved Grandma more than I can say. I began. She was the only one who saw me, really saw me, and I know she would have been heartbroken to see how you've treated me since she passed. There were murmurs, a few raised brows, last month. I continued. "You posted a family photo, a beautiful one. Everyone smiling, everyone glowing, except I was there, in real life, but not in the picture. You erased me." My brother rolled his eyes. "Here we go again." "No," I said louder. "You don't get to brush this off. You didn't crop me out because the angle was bad. You cropped me out because I don't fit your version of this family anymore, because I moved away, because I chose something different, because I didn't become a clone of this picture. Perfect lie." Mom stepped forward, her voice tight. "Maddie, this isn't the time. It's exactly the time." I snapped. "Because every story you just told about Grandma, all those memories, they include me. I was there. She made pancakes for me too. She held my hand on my first day of school. She told me to follow my heart, not the rules, and she loved me even when you didn't." Silence. Then from the back, Aunt Carol chuckled. "Oh, sweetie." She said, "Not everything's about you. You were always the dramatic one." Laughter, a few smirks. My brother shook his head like I was a soap opera character. My vision blurred. I looked down at Grandma's urn. She told me. I whispered. "A week before she passed," she said, "don't let them shrink you to fit their picture." I didn't understand what she meant until now. Mom walked up beside me and hissed through her teeth. "If you're trying to make a scene, I'm trying to tell the truth." "Well," my brother said, crossing his arms, "the truth is you left. You didn't show up for birthdays. You didn't help take care of Grandma in her final months. You chose your independent life over us, so don't come back and play the victim. It stung. More than I wanted to admit. But I didn't cry. I straightened. You're right. I did leave, and thank God I did. Because if I hadn't, I might have stayed small enough to still believe I needed your approval. And with that, I turned and walked off that porch past the lemonade table, past the cake, past every pair of shocked, amused, uncomfortable eyes. I didn't look back, because what they didn't know was, I had something they couldn't edit or erase. A plan, and a secret Grandma left behind, one that would make sure everyone saw what they'd really done to her. I didn't cry until I was halfway home. My hands gripped the steering wheel like I was trying to hold onto the only part of myself that hadn't shattered. The truth had come out, but the relief I thought I'd feel never came. Instead, my chest felt hollow, like every word I'd said had echoed into a room full of people wearing earmuffs. They didn't hear me. They never had, but that night, while I sat cross-legged on my tiny apartment floor, surrounded by silence and dim yellow lamplight, I remembered something Grandma had told me the last time we spoke, something that hadn't made sense back then. Now it hit like a lightning bolt. I put something aside for you, baby, where they can't reach it, where only the truth belongs. At the time, I assumed she meant a letter or maybe a keepsake, but now I was starting to think she meant something more. The next morning, I drove to the lawyer's office, the same one that had handled Grandma's will. I hadn't been invited to the reading. I didn't even know it had happened until I saw the family celebrating at Applebee's afterward, posted smugly on my cousin Jen's story with the caption, "She always knew how to take care of her own, but Grandma was smart." She always planned for more than one outcome. When I arrived, the receptionist looked up and blinked. "Can I help you? I'm Madeline Rose." I said, "Margaret Rose's granddaughter." She tapped a few keys, then narrowed her eyes. "The family already processed the will." "I know," I said, "but she told me she left something else, something separate." A long pause. She got up and disappeared into a back room. 10 minutes later, a short man in a gray suit appeared and waved me in. "Miss Rose," he said, "please follow me." I sat across from him, trying not to look too desperate, too wrecked, too full of hope. I can't share much. He began, folding his hands, "But I can tell you that your grandmother created a secondary instruction file. It was marked private, to be opened only by you. She left it in our safe about 3 months before she passed." My throat tightened. "Is it still here?" He nodded and pulled open a drawer. Inside was a small red envelope, sealed with wax. He slid it across the desk. We were instructed not to disclose it to the other beneficiaries. My hands shook as I broke the seal. Inside, in Grandma's unmistakable handwriting, was a single letter and a USB drive. "My dearest Maddie, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, but don't worry. I'm still with you, just in a sneakier form now. I know how this family works. I know they left you out, but I need you to know something very important. They didn't win. I made a video, a very important one. It's saved on this drive. I made it for you, and I made it for the truth. The day your mother and brother convinced me to rewrite the will, I knew I had to do something, so I told them I did it. I played along, but I recorded everything. You'll see what I mean when you watch it. I love you, baby girl. Shine brighter than all their shadows." Grandma Mags, I stared at the page, heart racing. A video. I didn't wait. I drove straight home, shoved the USB into my laptop, and held my breath. The screen flickered. There she was, sitting on her floral couch, wearing her sky blue cardigan and the gold heart locket I'd given her in middle school. Her voice cracked the silence. "If you're watching this," she said, "then they've probably convinced the world that I left everything to them. But let me tell you the truth, once and for all." For the next 17 minutes, I sat in stunned silence as she poured out everything. She talked about the pressure, how my mom and brother had pushed her when she got sick, how they told her I wasn't family anymore because I'd moved away, how they'd guilted her into changing the will after promising to take care of her, how they lied to the lawyer, how they isolated her in her final weeks and made it seem like I never visited when I had, quietly, when they weren't home. Tears ran down my face as I watched her trembling hands hold up documents, copies of the original will, letters I'd written, even a picture of us from the summer I spent helping her recover from surgery, one no one else in the family even knew existed. "They don't want Maddie to be part of this family," she said, eyes fierce, because she reminds them of what they're not. Honest, brave, free. At the end, she looked straight into the camera. "I trust you to do what's right with this." And the screen went black. I didn't sleep that night. I paced, I cried, I rewatched it over and over. Then finally, at 3 a.m., I uploaded the video unlisted for now and wrote an email with a link attached. Subject line: the truth about Grandma's will recipients, every single family member who was at that porch. I hit send and sat back in the dark. They thought I was gone. They thought they'd erased me. But they forgot one thing: Grandma always believed the truth outlived the liars. And I was just getting started. When the sun rose, I had already refreshed my email 27 times. I wasn't sure what I expected. Apologies, denials, maybe even threats. But all I got at first was silence, a long, eerie silence that crawled into my chest and made me second. Guess if I had done the right thing. Then around 12 a.m., the dam broke. My phone lit up like it was gasping for breath. First came the call from my cousin Jen. Decline. Then a string of text messages from my brother, the same one who told me a year ago that family was earned, not given. Now he was saying, "Why would you do this?" Grandma was confused, Maddie. "Take the video down before this gets worse." I didn't respond, because for once, it was going to get worse for them. I hadn't just emailed the video to the family. I'd sent it to Grandma's church group, to her bridge club, to her favorite nursing assistant, care center, to the lawyer who handled the case. I'd even sent it to one of her old neighbors, the sweet woman who used to bring over banana bread and whose husband was on the city council. Why? Because Grandma didn't raise me to stay quiet when people rewrite history, and I wasn't going to let their version be the last one. By noon, the fire was burning hotter than I'd imagined. A friend from church messaged me, "Madeline, I just watched the video. I'm in tears. I had no idea what they did. We all wondered why you weren't at the memorial. Now I know. I'm so sorry." Another message came from a woman named Carla, who used to work at the local senior center. "Your grandma adored you. She used to talk about how proud she was of you moving to the city." That video, it gave me chills. "I hope you're okay." And then the comments started flooding the private Facebook group for Friends of Margaret Rose, a group I hadn't even known existed until someone added me. Grandma's photo, with her bright smile and pink scarf, sat at the top of the group banner like she was watching everything unfold. They were furious, not at me, at them. Someone posted a quote from the video: "They don't want Maddie to be part of this family because she reminds them of what they're not." Another person wrote, "If this is what her daughter and grandson did to her, they don't deserve a cent." Even people I hadn't spoken to in years began reaching out. One woman from my high school messaged, "Maddie, your grandma was a legend. This is insane. Let me know if you need anything." But the real kicker, one of the women from the church group printed the transcript of the video and brought it to the church board. Why? Because my family had donated part of Grandma's estate in her name, and now people wanted to know where that money really came from. Things unraveled fast after that. My brother tried damage control. He posted a long status filled with half apologies and vague words like miscommunication, mental decline, and protecting our loved ones. But it backfired, because now people were watching the video and comparing it to his words, and the truth had a way of cutting cleaner than any excuse. My mom went quieter. She didn't post anything at all, just unfriended me on every platform and blocked my number. That hurt, I won't lie, but it didn't break me, not this time, because I had Grandma's voice in my ears, reminding me, shine brighter than their shadows. So I kept going. I contacted the lawyer who'd handed me the USB. I asked, "Is there anything we can do to reopen the case?" He said it wouldn't be easy, but with this kind of evidence, a judge might consider revisiting the terms under undue influence or elder coercion. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about exposing what they'd done. This was about making sure they didn't get away with it, because they had stolen more than money. They stole memories, time, legacy, the final chapter of my grandmother's life and rewritten it in their favor like I didn't exist. But Grandma made sure I had a voice, and now I was using it. I didn't just post the video publicly, I shared it with a journalist friend from college, someone who now worked at a mid-sized digital magazine focused on family issues and elder care ethics. Within 48 hours, the headline went up. Woman shares shocking footage of family manipulating Grandma's will. They thought I wasn't watching. It spread. The comment section was full of people who'd been through similar things. This happened to my aunt. They isolated her and changed everything. Thank you for being brave enough to speak out. And suddenly, I wasn't alone anymore. I was part of a chorus, all of us holding candles against the dark. And while the family fumed behind closed doors, the world was watching. They had replaced me in Grandma's life like I was a smudge they could erase. But now, I'd replaced their version of the truth with the real one. The video had done its job, but I wasn't finished because there was still one place I had to go. One person I had to speak to face, and she wouldn't see it coming. I didn't expect my phone to ring again, not after the avalanche, not after the video spread, not after the group chats lit up like wildfire and the lawyer called me saying, "You've stirred something bigger than you realize." But it rang 3 nights after the video dropped. Her name flashed across my screen, Mom. My thumb hovered over the answer button. Every part of me screamed not to pick up the same way you wouldn't touch a flame after it's already burned you once. But I answered anyway, maybe out of curiosity, maybe because some part of me still needed to hear her voice, Maddie. She said just my name, soft as if she hadn't blocked me days ago. "What do you want?" I kept my voice steady, flat. "We need to talk," she said, like she was asking me to meet for coffee, not trying to walk back years of damage. Face to face. "It's not what you think." I almost laughed. "What I think? You mean the part where you all rewrote Grandma's will and left me out like I didn't exist?" There was silence. Her voice cracked, "Please. Just come by the house tomorrow." Noon, click. She hung up without waiting for an answer, and I stared at the phone like it might explode in my hand. The next day, I stood outside the house I grew up in. The garden looked smaller now. The porch creaked the same, but the air, it was heavier, denser, like the house remembered everything that had been said within its walls and wasn't finished listening. I knocked once. She opened the door within seconds. She looked smaller, not physically, but something inside her had shrunk. Her mouth was pinched like she hadn't slept. Her nails were chipped, her hair tied up the way she always did when things were unraveling. "Maddie," she said again. I walked past her into the living room without a word. She followed. "I know what you posted," she began. "It's out of context." That made me laugh, an ugly, hollow sound. Context. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket and placed it on the coffee table between us. "This is the context. You erased me from Grandma's will while she was alive and lucid, and you did it because you thought she wouldn't say anything. You didn't count on her recording it." Her eyes narrowed. "You don't understand the pressure we were under." "I understand perfectly." I cut in. "You didn't want me to have anything because I was the one person in the family who challenged you, who left, who didn't bow and play obedient daughter. You wanted to punish me for that. I was trying to protect the family." "No," I said, standing taller. "You were protecting your control. And the truth scares you." She broke. I watched it happen, the mask slipping. "You weren't here," she said, her voice rising. "You weren't there when your grandmother needed help with the bathroom, or when she got confused at night, or when she forgot where she was. You don't know what it was like." I stared at her, jaw tight, and yet she still wanted me in her will. She still called me her heartbeat in that recording. You were there, and she still chose me. That must have burned. The silence after that was different, not just heavy, dangerous. She sat down slowly. "What do you want, Maddie?" "Money, an apology, a seat at the table again." I looked her dead in the eye. "I want the truth to be permanent. I want you to go on record, publicly, and admit what you did. I want you to tell Grandma's lawyer you coerced her, and I want a written apology. Not just to me, but to her memory." She flinched like I'd struck her. "I can't do that," she said. "Then we're done." I stood, turned toward the door, but then she said it, the one thing that stopped me in my tracks. "You're going to regret this." I turned back, slow, measured. "No, I whispered. You will, because this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about justice, the kind that outlives whispers and group chats and manipulations passed off as family decisions. As I left, I didn't feel anger. I felt peace. I walked away from that house like I was shedding an old skin, one stitched together by guilt, obligation, and years of being told I didn't belong, that my dreams, my distance, my decisions were selfish. But I wasn't selfish. I was free, and the story wasn't over, because the attorney had filed a formal petition to contest the will, based on the video, several testimonies, and now a magazine piece gaining national traction. There was a real chance the estate would be reviewed and possibly reversed, and if that happened, everything they tried to steal would come tumbling down, not because I begged for it, but because Grandma made sure I could fight it. They thought I would fade. They thought I'd go back to my small apartment, drown in bitterness, maybe post a few angry rants online that would eventually get buried beneath someone else's scandal, and that would be it. They never expected me to rise, but grief has a strange way of forging fire in the right hands, and when my grandmother passed, she didn't leave me money. She didn't leave me property. She left me something far more dangerous. She left me her truth, and it was louder than anything they tried to bury. After that last conversation with my mother, something shifted. I didn't cry when I walked away from the house. I didn't collapse like some broken daughter waiting to be accepted again. Instead, I went straight to the local journalist who'd been hounding my inbox since the video leaked. Her name was Rachel, and she didn't just want a scoop, she wanted the full story. You ready for this? She asked as we sat in the corner of a quiet cafe. Because once we publish, there's no going back. I nodded, sliding the documents across the table, the will, the recorded conversation, even letters Grandma had written me, ones I found folded in her old knitting box, each sealed and dated. She'd known what was happening to her. She'd written her way through the fear. I'm not scared of going back. I said, I'm scared of staying silent. The piece went viral in under 48 hours. The headline, Family Secrets, buried her voice, but her granddaughter brought it back to life. It wasn't just about the will anymore. It was about elder abuse, about manipulation within families, about the way power hides behind bloodlines and dinner tables and smiles that mean nothing when the door closes. And suddenly, people were listening. Other families reached out, some shared similar stories. Others just wrote to say, thank you for telling the truth. Then came the lawyer's call. We have a case, he said, not just to contest the will, but to expose what they did in court. That's when I knew this wasn't revenge anymore. This was a reckoning. The court proceedings were long, ugly. In public, my aunts, cousins, and my own mother were forced to testify. They squirmed under oath, tried to play the grief card, said I was bitter, said I was unstable, that I'd twisted everything, but then the recordings were played. My grandmother's voice soft, fragile, lucid. I don't want to cut Maddie out. She had said, she's the only one who visits because she wants to. The others just want my money. Silence fell in the courtroom like a thunderclap. That moment shattered every lie they tried to layer over me. The judge ruled in our favor. The will was reversed. The original version reinstated the one Grandma had signed long before anyone coerced her. Estate was to be divided as she intended, but for me, that wasn't the win. The real victory came later when I received a letter from a small nonprofit hospice in Oregon. The founder wrote, after reading your story, we've renamed our art therapy wing in your grandmother's honor. We'd love if you'd come paint something for it. That's when it hit me. They tried to erase me, but I had become something they couldn't touch, her legacy. A year later, I stood inside that hospice room, paintbrush in hand. On the wall in front of me bloomed a mural of all the things my grandmother loved: hydrangeas, hummingbirds, old sewing patterns, her favorite armchair. And in the corner I painted a window. Inside it, a young girl stood, brush in hand, colors in her eyes, with the word heirloom etched beneath her feet. Because I didn't just inherit her love, I carried forward her voice, and nothing could take that from me again.